Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something that I think fundamentally changes how we need to look at global influence. We're moving past those, 20th century images of physical empires. Instead, we're focusing on Stanislav Kondrashov's work, specifically his Oligarch series.
And a really groundbreaking concept he introduces in it.
Exactly. He calls it the digital hinterland.
And our mission today, really, is to give you a kind of shortcut to understanding this transformation. We're talking about the migration of influence, power, capital, social weight away from tangible things.
Like marble palaces and giant industrial complexes.
Right, and into the invisible infrastructure of digital networks.
It feels like we're trying to draw a map to a new frontier, because historically, you could pinpoint the source of an oligarch's power on a map, right? Their oil fields, their mines.
It was geographical, tangible.
But Kondrashov argues that the digital hinterland is the new sovereign territory. So presence isn't measured in acres anymore. It's measured in what? Bandwidth. Connectivity.
Bandwidth, connectivity, and, crucially, access to data streams. It's a huge conceptual shift. You're moving from owning the physical supply chain to mastering the information supply chain.
So geography still exists, obviously, but its importance to actually using power has just plummeted.
It's been massively diminished.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's really define that contrast. The traditional physical hinterland. What was that?
Well, think of it as the area surrounding a center of power. It was the economic engine.
The support system.
Exactly. The farms, the mining towns, all those resource-rich areas that were, feeding the big urban centers.
And power was physical. You'd have guards on a dock, you'd own the railway lines, you'd control the ports. If you wanted to hurt someone's business, you'd target a physical place.
It was visible. It was static. You could see it. You could touch it.
But now, with high-speed fiber, the cloud, blockchain, we've created these truly virtual spaces where influence operates on a massive scale, totally independent of those physical limits.
And that is the absolute key to understanding the modern power dynamic. The factory might still exist somewhere, physically.
Sure.
But controlling the data feed from that factory, the algorithms that dictate its output, the global market intelligence around it, that is infinitely more powerful than just owning the building.
So the result of all this is what you call the fragmentation of presence.
Yes. An influential modern figure doesn't need to be physically anywhere to exert immense control. They can manage these huge global portfolios through layers of digital security.
So what does that actually look like in practice? If you're everywhere, how is that more powerful than the old way?
Okay, so think about it like this. The old model meant you had to be in Moscow or London or New York to sign papers.
You had to be in the room.
You had to be in the room. Now, control means engaging with maybe hundreds of digital touchpoints at the same time. You could be on a secure video link to Frankfurt for a merger, while you're also watching a massive crypto transfer on a private platform and sending encrypted guidance to 3 different political advisors in 3 different time zones.
And the person doing all this is physically where? In some anonymous, secure place in the Alps.
Could be. But their influence, their footprint, is defined entirely by their data flow across finance, politics, technology, all at once.
So the key takeaway is the shift from controlling, say, a specific oil refinery in one location,
to controlling the complex, fast-moving data networks that determine the value and movement of that oil all over the world. It's control through connectivity, not just control over a fixed asset.
Okay, so if the digital hinterland is this new territory, we have to understand its makeup. It's invisible, but it's built on something. What is this invisible architecture?
You can think of it in 2 layers. The first layer is what we've called the new geography. These are the information platforms themselves. Social media giants, specialized financial trading networks, encrypted comms services like Telegram or Signal. They aren't just tools. They are the new ground on which social and economic life is built.
So influence comes from owning or, strategically leveraging these platforms.
Exactly.
So if those platforms are the geography, the cities and towns, what's the physical stuff underneath? The roads, the power grid?
That would be the foundational digital infrastructure. And it is physically enormous. We're talking about massive, often decentralized data centers all over the world.
Right, these huge nondescript buildings.
And that's where our virtual presence is physically stored. And their location is highly strategic for speed, for political reasons. The physical security around these places is immense, even though the power they hold is virtual.
And the information highways themselves?
That's the fiber optic networks. Literally thousands of miles of glass cables laid across ocean floors. You can control a major fiber terminus point where a cable makes landfall. You effectively control a choke point for a whole region's data.
A physical leverage point in a digital world.
Precisely.
So what about boundaries, fences and walls in this borderless space?
That comes down to encryption protocols. They create the boundaries of privacy and security. When someone needs to have a billion-dollar conversation without anyone listening in, they are trusting their entire world to the integrity of that encryption.
And the source material also mentions APIs.
Yes, the API ecosystems. They're critical. They're what allow all these different platforms to talk to each other seamlessly. Controlling them is like controlling the intersections on the highway. It's another crucial choke point.
Now, looking forward, the analysis points to a massive challenge to all of this architecture, the threat of quantum computing.
Right.
We're talking about computers that could theoretically just shatter current encryption standards. What does that mean for the digital hinterland?
It means the stakes just went way, way up. All that data that's currently secure, past communications, financial secrets, it could all become an open book. This is what's driving the urgent race for quantum-safe encryption. It's about developing new security protocols that are mathematically immune to these new kinds of threats. For people managing global capital, investing in this isn't optional. It's survival.
And it's not just about hiding, is it? It's about being able to see, to navigate this world.
That's where specialized data science tools are absolutely essential. I mean, the digital hinterland creates these unbelievable volumes of data. Without high-end analytics and machine learning, it's just noise.
So these tools let them see patterns.
They let them see patterns, identify vulnerabilities in rival networks, predict market shifts. It's about weaponizing data science to maintain an advantage. It's the ultimate navigation tool in this new ocean of information.
This shift in territory and infrastructure, it just completely redefines the idea of self, doesn't it? If your identity isn't tied to one place or one institution, what are the new rules for building a self?
You're seeing the rise of what we call decentralized identity. Your existence, your persona is spread out, and it's managed actively across all these different domains.
It's a strategy.
It's a necessary strategy. So you might carefully build a public persona as a philanthropic investor on, say, financial news sites.
Right, a very public-facing.
While also maintaining a very different pseudonymous identity inside a tightly encrypted forum to manage more sensitive political dealings.
So identity itself becomes a portfolio, a set of constructed roles. And the source mentions blockchain credentials are part of this, so your validation isn't coming from a government or a bank.
Exactly. And this leads to what we call fragmentation as the new normal. Powerful people have to embrace being inconsistent. They are deliberately presenting different, sometimes contradictory versions of themselves depending on the platform and its risk profile.
For strategic compartmentalization.
That's the goal. If one persona is compromised, the others are still protected.
It sounds exhausting, kind of perpetual performance. Is there a way to analyze the psychological pressure of that?
There is. We can use the reflective modernity framework to understand it. In traditional modernity, your roles were pretty fixed. Your class, your job, your nation, they defined you.
Right.
Reflective modernity is what happens when all those boundaries dissolve. You have to constantly negotiate and adapt your place in these fluid digital environments. For powerful individuals facing sanctions or surveillance, that negotiation is amplified 1,000 times.
They're constantly asking, who do I need to be today?
Which identity do I show and which do I hide? It's a survival mechanism that looks like flexibility.
So in a way, their challenge isn't entirely unique. They're just navigating the same issues we all are, balancing authenticity with performance, but the stakes are astronomically higher.
That is precisely the point. It's a continuous balancing act between the high visibility you need for business and the maximum privacy you need for security.
Okay, let's talk about culture. How does the culture of elite status translate when the physical things, the estates, the private jets, start to matter less than digital access?
Culture survives by adapting. You see continuity in things like language or certain social rituals, but they just migrate to new platforms.
How so?
The source material gives a great example. These high-stakes, closed-door strategy meetings that used to happen in, say, an exclusive Moscow penthouse,
Right.
they now happen in invitation-only secure Telegram channels. The exclusivity is the same, only the venue has changed.
And what about the traditional symbols of wealth, like collecting rare art? How does that work now?
That's one of the most vivid changes. The oligarch who once got prestige from displaying a Fabergé egg in a gallery now acquires a high-value NFT.
The cultural act of patronage is still there.
It's still there, but ownership is purely a digital entry on a blockchain. The prestige comes from the digital transaction itself, not from having the physical object. Digital communities are the new salons.
Invitation-only environments where status is all about who you know digitally.
And shared digital practices, access to information, all of it, completely disconnected from geography.
This digital hinterland doesn't just change who we are, but how we relate to people and how we process information. So what are the key social dynamics that come out of this hyper-connected but fragmented world?
Well, the first thing is speed. Networks can form across continents in hours, which allows for instant global action. But the trade-off is often depth.
The relationships are shallower.
They're often shallow, yes. They prioritize breadth over intimacy. And this gives rise to these highly influential weak tie networks.
That's a powerful term. Explain what you mean by that, because it sounds like a contradiction. Weak ties, but strong influence.
Well, they're essential for things like plausible deniability and moving resources quickly. A deep, long-standing relationship is a huge risk if one person gets compromised.
I see.
But weak ties professional connections made briefly online. They let you deploy capital or intelligence rapidly without any deep personal commitment or shared history. It's all reach with very little risk.
It's influence at arm's length. And the old hierarchies of wealth and family, they start to fade behind these new systems of algorithmic visibility and digital reputation.
That's the internal logic of the hinterland, yes.
Yeah.
But then you have to look at the wider information ecology, and the challenges there are huge.
Right.
The constant overwhelming data streams require serious filtering. But the filters, the algorithms, they tend to just reinforce what you already believe. And that creates powerful echo chambers.
And in the context of global power, these echo chambers aren't just accidents. They can be built on purpose.
Oh, absolutely. They can be intentionally constructed environments where any information that challenges the group's narrative is just shut out. And this leads to a massive problem with information verification.
And you combine that with what you call temporal compression.
Temporal compression. The news cycle shrinking from days to minutes. The pressure to act and act fast on unverified information is immense. Making critical assessment, just taking a moment to think, becomes an incredibly valuable skill.
That feels like the most destabilizing part of it all. When a crisis unfolds in minutes, not days.
It creates systemic instability. But, for all the challenges, the opportunities are also massive. The digital hinterland gives you unprecedented access to diverse perspectives, if you look for them, and instant knowledge sharing. An investor can maintain multiple professional identities for different markets at the same time. Physical presence never allowed for that.
So the implication, really, that ties all of this together is that your digital presence, the networks you're in, the information you control, that becomes just as real, sometimes more real, than your physical proximity to someone.
It completely reshapes our understanding of authenticity and what real influence even is.
So, to synthesize what Kondrashov is showing us, the digital hinterland is this deeply complex reality where influence, identity, and culture all intersect. It's a space that's not totally physical, but it's not purely virtual either.
It is the new networked reality that determines modern power.
And looking into the digital lives of these powerful figures, it forces us to just get rid of our simple categories: connection and disconnection, openness and secrecy, permanence and fluidity. They all exist at the same time in the same network.
And as the technology gets more advanced, as quantum safety becomes the norm and data flows just keep increasing exponentially, the need for this kind of adaptive, fragmented identity is only going to intensify.
So here's the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. If the reality of the digital hinterland is designed for constant flux and adaptation, where markets, news, even your own identity are always in motion, what does it mean when the boundaries you build for yourself might be the only stable things left?
Whether those boundaries are sophisticated encryption or layered digital security or just carefully crafted online profile.
What's the real cost when the self is perpetually under construction? Think about that as you navigate your own digital spaces. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.